Good afternoon and Chodesh Tov, Rosh Chodesh Iyar. This is a Devar Torah on Parashat Kedoshim. This portion, which is always read during Sfiras Omer, virtually always, Sfiras Omer, is a portion that is relatively short, but contains a lot in it. And in particular, it's very apropos to the period of Sfiras Omer, which in some ways, at least Lag Omer, is a period of semi-mourning, collective mourning, not individual mourning. And the parsha starts, the Shem Moshe Lemor, Velkol Edis B'nai Yisrael, Amrat Lahem, Kodesh Tehayu, Ki Kodesh Ani Anoy Alechem. Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the entire assembly of Israel, and say to them, you shall be holy, for I am holy, your God. And then it goes into a number of different commandments, some of which are, again, more Adam L'chvera, we don't understand the reason. For example, shotness, we can understand with animals, you don't have a donkey and a ox pushing the same plow, because it would be unfair to the smaller animal. And one is not turning to idols of various types. And it also explains that all your shechting, you have to eat it within the prescribed time. If you either didn't eat it in the prescribed time or decide you're going to eat the sacrifice afterwards, it was punishment. And is also saying you have to leave over certain parts of the field for the poor and the proselyte and the converts. Also, because we're not stealing from one each other and not swearing falsely. And if you look at a lot of these are paying your workers the day they earn the work, and talking about how you must not pervert justice. And there's various other ones which I'll be getting into. And the fact that you can't various species, and there's a whole number of different laws, and also the law of all appears here, which means that when you plant a tree, for the first 3 years, it's forbidden. The fourth year, you have to bring it as an offering to Hashem, the fruits. In the fifth year, you can actually use it. And then it then goes on to talk about various types of idol worship and that one is not allowed to do. And beyond that, it finally goes, the 20th chapter is mainly dealing with the penalties for various prohibited relationships, the ones that were discussed in last week's parsha, inappropriate relationships, what are the various penalties for them. And what I would like to focus on in this Devar Torah is really 3 verses. And I will then want to relate them to this time of year and this verse Omer era. And these 3 Pesukim start with Vav 15 in chapter 19, which says, Lo ta'asu ol b'mishpat v'lo tiseh p'nei dal v'lo devel p'nei gadol tzedek tishpatim mitacha. The first one just said mood, you should not commit a perversion of justice, you should not favor the poor, and you should not honor the rich. With righteousness, you should judge your fellow. Again, society can't function without such a system. Lo te'ik v'yachal ba'meka, lo tamud al dam re'echa ani Hashem. And you shall not be do rechila, should not be a gossip among your people. You're not to stand aside while your fellow's blood is shed. On one, first of all, rechilas is where you spread gossip and talk behind a person's back about them and know that it will ultimately cause animosity with different people and hatred. That is not allowed to do. And following that, concomitant with that, is next pasuk, lo telech, and next pasuk after the one about not studying on your neighbor's blood. The exact pasuk again is lo rachilas b'mecha, lo tumud al dam recha ani Hashem. And you should not be a gossip monger. You should not stand aside while you've close blood of Shaddai Hashem. And why it has to have the Hashem. Lo tinus akika abakaba hokiak tokiak mecha lo tosei of kate. You shall not hate your brother in your heart. You should prove your fellow an up-air sin because of him, which means if you see, and this has to be carefully observed how this is exactly done, you have to stop people from, if you saw somebody has done a sin, you need to speak to him in a proper way. You shouldn't hold hatred, even if it's hurt you personally. And it's explained when you do this, you have to break it up into steps. Try to do it in still a positive, sweet way. You shouldn't hate him in your heart. And even if you see something bothering you, and even if they're doing things that look like acts of evil, you have to judge them favorably, try to approach them. Maybe they didn't know and what they're doing. And in addition, the admonition has to be done gently, and you can never hate a person. The only thing you can do is you can only hate. You can't hate the person. You cannot like what they've done, but the person who has a mortal soul, you cannot hate them. This is something that every Jew, every person must remember about their fellow man and women, Jewish men and women. You cannot hate anybody in your heart. And then the third pasuk is lo tisana elachecha levavecha. Excuse me. Lo ketikam v'lo teher el b'nei amecha after re'echa kamocha ani Hashem. You should not take revenge, and you should not bear a grudge against the members of your people. You should love your fellow as yourself. I am Hashem. Now, Rabbi Akiva said that is the cloud gadol, that is the general principle that really the whole Torah encompasses the whole Torah. And also Hillel, when the Ger came to him and said, teach me the Torah on one foot. What did he say to him? He said, do not do what is hateful to you, do not do unto your fellow. And he said, the rest is details, sit down and learn. And that is one thing he did. And so that is also, now I'd like to connect this. This was something that Rabbi Akiva, epitomized Rabbi Akiva. Now, not following these rules, perverting justice, hating your fellow in your heart, fellow man or woman, all of you people, all of these led to the destruction of the Second Temple, because they kept the mitzvahs, but what was their major avera? They seems Edom basically hated one against the other, result in the destruction of the temple. And because of our differences, we have been in exile now for almost 2,000 years. When it was sins against God, in the first temple, we were in exile 70 years. Here we've been in exile, even though now we're starting to come back to the land of the Eretz Israel. So what was Rabbi Akiva doing? After the destruction of the temple, he was trying to rebuild for the future. He raised 24,000 students. They were all Tanaim, level of people who eventually wrote down the Mishnahs. They were all incredibly high level. There was 12,000 pairs of Charusas, study partners. 12,000 times 2 being 24,000. Yet, they all died in the plague in the period between Pesach, second day of Pesach, when we count the Omer, first Omer, to Shavuos, they all died. And question is, these were all an extremely high-level people. What did they die of? They died of, because they did not have kavod, they did not respect each other's honor. Now that they were such a high level and were supposed to be the future leaders of the Jewish people, how did that come? And interestingly enough, the plague they died from was a plague where there was lack of, they were not able to breathe, affected sound like their breathing system. And since it was what they did in terms of their speaking that led to their demise, it was a just punishment. As Rav Moshe Shapiro Zikron Tzaddik L'Bracha explains, what was going on here? They were at a very high level. Now, the whole system of learning is based on a group of partnership, study partners, and each will make ideas. Now, if you don't think your idea, the other fellow's idea, is valid, you challenge them in a respectful way. But their search for Torah emes, as Rav Moshe Shapiro pointed out, is equally valid as the other persons. They're all seeking the truth, the meaning of Hashem's Torah, and all the laws that we're supposed to carry out. They did not respect the other person's arguments. They did not respect them. And if they didn't feel they were correct, they still should have respected them, and they failed to do so. Therefore, they could not be the future leaders, as has been explained by some commentators. If they had, and there was this lack of respect, would have destroyed the Jewish people in a few generations, because it would have been machloket. Then Rabbi Akiva had 5 new students called the rabbis from the south. They were the ones who ultimately kept the tradition going, kept the smicha to rabbinical ordination, and they had that missing element, and they all cared for one another and respected one another, as explained by Rav Moshe Zikron Tzaddik L'Bracha. Now, what does that have to do with our verses here? That is the question. What does that have to do with our verses here? It's goes like this. As explained by the in Sefer Shar Pesukim and Likutei Torah Tami Mitzvahs, the following was actually going on here, is that when it says Lo tekil rachila amekav lo tamed al dam mereka ani Hashem, you should not spread gossip, you shall not stand on the side while your fellow's blood is shed. One of the meanings is if you see somebody doing something like that, you're supposed to prevent it. However, on a deeper level, what it also means is, who's the Riecha? Who is your neighbor? Is Hashem. Because on a deeper level, those people who are Talmidei Chachamim, and if they respected, they are like, in a sense, spiritual sense, brothers of Hashem, not literally, obviously. And therefore, these people that did that would be by not respecting other people and by causing them pain and doing averas against them, the blood that is being spilled was it partially goes up to Shemayim, not the literal blood, but spiritually it goes up to Shemayim, to the higher worlds, and it's causing pain to Hashem, seeing that such things are in fact going on. And that is that is one of the meanings. Now, taking it to a final level, a deeper level, it also explains that we are all the entire Jewish people are really all part of the soul of Adam Rishon. Now, what that means is that we all inherited, every Jewish individual. Adam and Chava had a 600,000 port neshama soul, which came to us, and we are all one giant collective neshama. 600,000 port had a male and female port. Now, since there's more than 600,000 Jews, some of these ports subdivide. In any event, we're a collective. Not that we don't have individual responsibility and individual mitzvahs, but on a deeper level, we are all one part, all united, and we see that in the Vidoy on Yom Kippur, for example. It doesn't say when we're doing confession, I sinned, I did this, I did that. Hopefully, no one individual did all of those averas that are listed in the commentaries of the Vidoy confession, but they committed some of them. And that being the case, we are all collectively responsible. When one person does an avera, it impacts the entire Jewish people. And even if we didn't do the avera personally, if we had worked better and harder, we might have prevented the other person collectively from doing it on a deeper spiritual level. That's one side of it. However, on the other side of it, when we do the right thing and when you do, after Yereka, Yishrafa, Kamoka, and you like yourself, Ani Hashem, what you are doing there is you're doing the opposite. You're achieving greater growth of the whole spiritual unity that makes us all. It strengthens our entire people and the entire Bnei Israel. Now, in today's world, as we're facing great challenges both in Eretz Israel and around the world, as anti-Semitism is rising, what is more important than anything is we must have that unity. And even if we don't agree, we must love that other person. And even if we don't like some of the things, reach out with kindness, reach out with positivity, so that we can hopefully all come together, no matter where we're individually holding, and therefore will be merit becoming of Mashiach and the ultimate redemption. And may we get past this period of Eker Mashiach, the footsteps of Mashiach, Kabbalah Mashiach, birth pangs Mashiach, and come to the ultimate redemption. Chodesh Tov, and I wish you a good Shabbos and a Shabbat Shalom.